It's August 2020 when Jo Emma Lavin wheeled a baggage cart piled with suitcases through London's Heathrow Airport and handed her passport to an Emirates airline agent for a flight to Dubai. Nothing about this act was unusual. Lavin was well-travelled and looked the part, having been a successful model and actress in the early 2000s, previously dating boxer Joe Calzaghe. She was travelling business class with another glamorous woman, and together they heaved 7 heavy suitcases onto the conveyor belt. She exchanged texts with her boyfriend en route to the security line. "Do you feel okay?" he asked. "Yes, phew," Lavin wrote. The concern from her boyfriend was justified, considering the suitcases contained millions of pounds wrapped with rubber bands and bundled in plastic. The money was headed to an international money launderer who charged a hefty fee to clients to exchange cash for gold or other currencies. His customer base was extensive, including the Kinahan organised crime group. This is the incredible story of Abdul Alfalasi, his glamorous money mules, and how over £100 million in cash left the UK for Dubai. You are watching OCG TV. Today's video is sponsored by our friends over at HelloFresh, who have put together a very generous offer for the viewers of OCG TV. Click on the link in the description box and use the code OCG6020 or scan the QR code on screen to get 60% off your first box, plus 20% off the next 2 months and free desserts for life. What's not to love about that? These days, when we are scrolling through social media, the volume of food and recipe content can be overwhelming. I found myself scrolling back through loads of old Instagram reels that I have sent to my wife to double-check the ingredients list on a recipe that I liked the look of 3 weeks ago. That's why we find HelloFresh so convenient. We can pre-select the exact meals that we want for the week, depending on what we are in the mood for, and HelloFresh will send me all the ingredients, measured to the letter, and delivered a neat little box right to our doorstep. HelloFresh are also super flexible, allowing you to pause your subscription if you're going away for an extended period. You might be going away for work or on a family holiday. We did this during a recent trip to Mexico, and you better believe we ordered all of HelloFresh's Mexican dishes for 2 weeks straight afterwards. Remove the faff from cooking while keeping the fun with HelloFresh. Click the link in the description below and use the code OCG6020 or scan the QR code on screen to get 60% off your first box plus 20% off the next 2 months. And don't forget the free desserts! When it comes to airport security in the UK, the standard is high. However, the Tech 3D scanners at all major airports are only checking for explosives and other potentially dangerous items. Most airports worldwide, including the US, don't scan passenger luggage for cash, a costly undertaking in equipment and personnel. Countries where all money is welcome have no obligation to report suitcases full of cash arriving from abroad. The loopholes allow billions of dollars worth of cash to fly out of the UK and elsewhere to countries with fewer rules. The UK also requires passengers to volunteer to customs authorities if they are leaving the country with more than £10,000, something Lavin and her colleague had no plans to do. 3 weeks later, Lavin left Heathrow with her boyfriend and a few million more pounds worth of cash in 8 suitcases. Her boyfriend had worried about drawing undue attention to so much luggage. "It's effing ridiculous," he texted. "Talk about conspicuous." Again, they arrived in Dubai and followed the process they'd been told in advance. No problems, easy money. It seemed too good to be true. They wondered who was pulling the strings on the other side. That responsibility lay with a man named Abdullah Mohammed Ali bin Bayat Alfalasi. He reportedly had connections to a royal family in the Emirates, and his father-in-law had previously managed customs at Dubai Airport when it was in its infancy and prior to the construction boom. His father-in-law played a pivotal role in transforming the airport into a major global hub and eventually became the Director General of Aviation. Alfalasi commenced his cash transportation operations from Heathrow to Dubai around 2017, subsequently expanding his activities during the pandemic period. On January 1, 2020, Alfalasi departed from Heathrow carrying 11 cases that weighed a total of 463 pounds, reporting an equivalent of $850,000 upon arrival in Dubai. To keep up with demand, Alfalasi needed a lot of couriers, and he tapped one courier to help him, Michelle Clark, an executive assistant who was considering relocating to Dubai with her husband, a former professional football player, and their children. Clark was part of a vibrant social circle in the northern city of Leeds, where she was employed by Sky TV. Alfalasi provided Clark with a ticket for an overnight flight from Heathrow to Dubai, with a return scheduled for the same day. Along with the ticket, he sent her a text containing a photograph of a letter that purportedly authorized her to transport cash on behalf of a company he owned, Omnivest Gold Trading, therefore creating a misleading impression of legitimacy regarding the purpose of her visit. After Clark landed, Alfalasi guided her in texts and voice messages to report the cash at an airport office and said he was waiting outside. She flew 3 more times in February 2020 while Alfalasi sought to enlist other couriers. It is believed that there was a surge in drug use during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic. People were told to stay at home, furloughed from work, or were removed of the burden of traveling to the office. This created an environment of boredom and people looked for an escape. Suddenly, there was a lot more cash that needed moved around. Traditional methods of money laundering were also limited due to non-essential businesses being closed. In July 2020, Clark texted a friend saying she needed 12 more people to work within the operation. The job criteria read, can't talk, trust, and reliable and fit. A friend put Clark in touch with Lavin, saying that Clark worked for the UAE embassy. The two women convened for a coffee meeting. During their discussion, Clark presented Lavin with stamped certificates that she would utilize as a document carrier and proposed a payment of £3,000 for transporting the suitcases. Additionally, Clark offered to cover Lavin's accommodation at a resort until she returned with the empty luggage. Lavin had a background in digital marketing, along with experience in modeling and wildlife photography. In 2008, she appeared in a music video for a popular British band McFly. A highly publicized breakup in 2009 with world champion boxer Joe Calzaghe attracted media attention, particularly after she began a relationship with his partner from the television show Strictly Come Dancing. The following month, Lavin forwarded a photograph of her passport to Clark and took a train to London's King's Cross station en route to Heathrow Airport. As her heart rate increased, she sent a text to her new boyfriend, Jonathan Johnson, who worked as an executive recruiter. Please be careful. I am beside myself here. Lavin made her way to a Starbucks located in a high-end shopping mall, where she met her travel partner, a 25-year-old woman who'd come from a commuter town outside of London. A driver arrived in a black Mercedes to transport them to a nearby location to retrieve their suitcases. Upon arriving at the airport, they proceeded to Emirates airline check-in desk, where they placed 7 suitcases onto the conveyor belt. The luggage was then subjected to a 3D scanner utilizing computed tomography technology to detect explosives. Unlike the security checks for passengers, these images are not monitored by personnel unless the software flags an item that could potentially ignite or detonate. Although the machines can be programmed to identify cash, this feature is not utilized as they are managed by airport security personnel focused on passenger safety rather than customs and immigration duties. Lavin and her travel companion took their seats in business class, while baggage handlers secured their suitcases in the hold beneath them. The journey, both to and from their destination, proceeded smoothly. Fast forward a few months to October 2020. Two other women weren't so lucky: Tara Hanlon and Megan Reeves. Customs officials took Hanlon into a side room and began questioning her. She told officers she was going on holiday. She had £50 in cash and her suitcases were simply full of clothes because it was a girls' trip and she didn't know what to wear. Cash detection dogs, trained to pick up the scent of significant quantities of banknotes in either baggage or carried on a person, had picked up her trail. When officials searched and subsequently arrested her, they found the cases were stuffed with vacuum-packed bags of cash totaling £1.9 million. Hanlon, who'd recently been furloughed from her job due to the COVID-19 pandemic, had accrued debts. Cross-checking documents at her home address and scouring her phone records, officers discovered she had carried £3.5 million for money-laundering gangs over 3 other Dubai trips. "OMG Shell, we've been held," the woman texted Clark, who was in Dubai. Other texts found on Hanlon's phone found that she was highly motivated by the money paid out for each trip. 3 big ones: "With this wage and the next, my debts go by." She also referred to the job as a perfect life, a few days in the sun and a few at home. Just a month later, Czech national Jeg Kamarat, 39, was held as he tried to board a flight from Heathrow to Dubai with £1.3 million of cash in his bags. Nicola Essen, 55, from Leeds, checked in 19 suitcases on 3 visits in August and September 2020, declaring a total of £4.6 million. Mohammed Gayas Ilyas, 29, from Slough, took a total of £2.5 million in 2 trips and was arrested off a flight back to Heathrow earlier that year in February 2020 after Border Force officers found a bag that had gone missing at the airport containing £431,000 in cash. Beatrice Orty, 27, checked in 7 suitcases containing £3.4 million during her journeys. She was also involved in the logistical arrangements for a further 16 trips. The police case was now gathering pace, and the National Crime Agency were brought in. The volume of cash discovered suggested the beneficiaries were at the highest tier of organised crime in the UK. The NCA investigated the travel bookings and the travel history and identified that 23 other people had travelled on bookings made using that same phone number, the same email address, and the same credit card, or a combination thereof. They also found that before each trip, Michelle Clark sent Alfalasi photos of the travellers' passports so he could buy their airline tickets. He booked them in pairs in Emirates business class to take advantage of the extra baggage allowance. His couriers returned in economy class. Alfalasi paid with his credit card and collected the air miles. Clark paid the couriers for the work, as well as some expenses, such as COVID tests, from her UK bank account. Alfalasi arranged for cash pickups from clients around the UK and managed the logistics of counting and packing the cash. He charged around 10% of the total. In Dubai, he exchanged the sterling notes into gold and local currency through banks and money exchanges. UK authorities arrested 8 more alleged couriers in May 2021. 7 months later, Alfalasi unexpectedly visited London with his wife and children, staying at an apartment owned by his wife's family on an exclusive Belgravia Square. One day, around lunchtime, investigators knocked on Alfalasi's door. They seized 3 phones that revealed details of his operation, which later surfaced in court documents. Inside, officers discovered 3 phones containing numerous messages between him and others talking about the collection, consolidation, and movement of the cash. The phones also contained pictures of suitcases filled with cash, a readout from a money-counting machine, and an itinerary for one courier's journey, with Alfalasi checking in at every stage of the process to ensure the money was delivered safely to Dubai. Alfalasi pleaded guilty in June 2022 to money laundering and was sentenced to a 9-year, 7-month prison term. The government seized around £3.5 million of his assets, including a Mercedes G63, Ford pickup truck and 3 Rolex watches. Michelle Clark is still under investigation for money laundering. In December 2020, she was arrested with around $9 million worth of gold on a private plane in Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania. Her husband launched a cryptocurrency company that sponsored boxing matches at a Dubai arena. Tara Hanlon was jailed for 34 months after she pleaded guilty to money laundering offences worth more than £5 million. Beatrice Oti was found guilty of money laundering-related offences and sentenced to 42 months imprisonment. Joe Emma Larvin was found guilty of a money laundering-related offence and sentenced to 24 months imprisonment, suspended for 24 months and 200 hours of unpaid work. Mohammed Ilyas pleaded guilty to a money laundering-related offence and sentenced to 15-month imprisonment, suspended for 24 months and 100 hours of unpaid work. An unnamed mail courier who flew over £4 million in August 2020 tragically died by suicide. Authorities said his phone had contained texts with details about the operation. And what happens to the money? Millions of pounds cash. It has to be put to good use, right? A court orders the forfeit of that money. It then belongs to the Home Office, and a portion of it is then relocated to the National Crime Agency. The balance is then allocated to the Treasury to assist in funding public services. This case illustrated how illicit cash fuels organised crime and highlights the scale of organised financial crime and its link to drug trafficking, and perhaps highlights the need for the upgrading of some airport security scanners. Thanks for watching another episode of OCG TV. Until next time, take care. Click the link in the description below and use the code OCG6020 or scan the QR code on screen to get 60% off your first box plus 20% off the next 2 months. And don't forget the free desserts!